Imagine getting up every day full of energy as if you were in your 20s again. What would that be like? What would it be worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Think about it. Your health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And yet, too many of us are taking it for granted until something goes wrong. And no one wakes up hoping to be diagnosed with a disease or chronic illness. And yet, we've never been taught how to be proactive in our health through our school or public health. As a registered health coach and integrative health practitioner, I believe it's time this information is made available to everyone. Combining new knowledge around your health and the ability to do my functional medicine lab tests in the comfort of your own home will allow you to optimize your health for today and all your tomorrows. Don't wait for your wake-up call. Welcome back to another episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. I am Melissa Deely, your host, and today I have with me Silvia Subirana. Silvia, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. And just to introduce you to the audience, Silvia Subirana is a clinical psychologist and head of content development at MyDry30, an app that helps users transform their relationship with alcohol and find greater meaning and fulfillment. By combining her master's in clinical psychology with the app's tools like hypnotherapy, journaling, and more, Silvia takes a holistic approach focusing on the powerful connection between mind and body to inspire lasting personal growth and intentional living. And so I'm really excited to have you on the show, Silvia, because of course, a lot of our work is aligned here with this holistic approach and using hypnotherapy and that powerful connection between mind and body and the power of our unconscious mind. And I'm really interested to know if you can just go back in your journey, what led you to where you're at now?
So I started working as a psychologist, studied psychology and then worked as a psychologist because I was always very intrigued on what was going on in people's minds and why people acted the way that they were acting. Um, and to be honest, I'm very happy with my journey. Like I couldn't have chosen better. Because obviously when you're 17, you have to choose, what do I do now for university, right? And it's such a big decision at that
It
moment. But
is.
yeah, I always tell people if you choose like something that at that time you liked, but then you didn't like, you always have time to change. But yeah, that's another topic. I was happy with my choice. And yeah, here I am working as a psychologist. And I'm also working in My Dry 30, which is the program that I later on I explain, um, because it really aligns with my values. I haven't drunk alcohol for over 5 years now, nearly six, I believe. I don't have a specific date because it was organic. But yeah, so it's basically a program that helps people have a mindful relationship with alcohol, as you introduced before. So combining these two things, helping people with their mental health and also showing people how life can be very enjoyable without alcohol, um, makes makes me very passionate about what I do.
I love that. And it's never more needed than right now. You know, there's so many people that are
Mhm.
struggling with both mental health and alcohol issues as a result of the mental health. And I just
Yeah.
saw a post this morning from a friend of mine with the big number 6 because it's 6 years since she's chosen to be sober. And one of the things that she commented on, or a couple of the things she commented on about this journey is A, she saves a lot of money.
Yeah, definitely.
and and B, the fact that you need to feel in order to be able to heal as opposed
Definitely, yeah.
to numbing out. And so, yeah, I love this conversation that we are going to have here today. And that just takes me right into pleasure versus happiness. And are we looking for happiness in the right places? And I would love for you to share your thoughts on that.
So I always believe that they they have sold, or like companies and society in general have sold an idea of happiness that's completely wrong. Because they've told us, yeah, buy this new car and you'll be happy, buy a house, get the promotion, anything, right? Anything material. We think that that will bring us happiness, but later on, you get that spike of dopamine, and then you're like, you feel like you're very happy, even though it's more like that dopamine rising. But how long does that last? 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week maximum? After that, you're bored and you're like, okay, what's next? Right. And that's not really how happiness works because I like to separate, obviously, they're very complicated processes in our minds and a lot of things are involved, but mainly dopamine is associated with pleasure and serotonin is associated with happiness. What do these two hormones do? Or neurotransmitters. Dopamine, as I said before, it creates that spike, right? That well, it's a high. It's you get very, very excited about something. But normally it's something external and it's something that pretty much like most of the times you do alone. For example, when you drink alcohol, you can drink with other people, but the alcohol is affecting on you, right? And you're numbing your emotions, that you're doing this. So everything that you do is in you. Whereas happiness, serotonin, when your mind and body segregate serotonin, um, you feel like you like this feeling, but you don't want to keep pushing, keep going because you're satisfied with that. With dopamine, you will always need more and more and more to feel that feeling, right? What I said before. You get the new car and you're like, that's a high, but then it goes down, and then you need another high, right? And you need to go up and down all the time. Whereas in serotonin, it's way more stable. It's longer in time. I like to imagine them as dopamine like a waves in the ocean that they come and go very fast, and serotonin is more like the bottom of the ocean that's always there and it barely moves, right? How can we segregate serotonin by spending time with the people that we love, feel loved and love other people, being grateful with your life, doing the things that are aligned with your values. So normally these things are in company. You don't do them on your own. Where some things can give you happiness on your own, but normally you do them with other people, right? So that this is like the main difference between the two.
And it's the chasing of the dopamine that triggers the addiction, right?
Exactly.
Keep wanting
Yeah.
more and more and more until, and it literally just chasing the dopamine is an addiction in and of itself.
Yeah, definitely. And because your body generates that tolerance and you not only want the same, but you want even more. So you keep chasing bigger and bigger things because now what used to give you the high, it doesn't do it anymore. So now you need a bigger and bigger and bigger thing every time.
And so people that are on that journey, that they've been chasing that dopamine, the body needs it, they're wanting it. For them, and for really most people in the world, change is difficult. So let's
Definitely, yeah.
talk about that process of change and why it's difficult and why people can be intimidated by it and fearful of it.
Change is very scary because all humans, pretty much all humans, love controlling things, love understanding what's going on around us. And change means not knowing, not controlling. And it can go really well, but it can also go really bad. And we just don't want to risk it normally, right? Um, I always like to think I talk about like different metaphors because I like think seeing images in my mind. Um, for me, it's like, for example, I try to build a new table, for example, and I do that with a hammer. And with a hammer, like I see that the hammer works, and then I get a table, and I'm okay with that. I solved the problem, right? I had to build the table, and I built it. But then some months after, I buy some shelves and I need to put those shelves together. And I see that that hammer is not really working. I need other tools, but I am very stubborn and I'm going to keep using that hammer all the time. Whereas I could use a screwdriver and I could have it done in 5 minutes, but I'm very stubborn because I don't want to change and I keep using that hammer, right? Um, this means that sometimes we are not allowing ourselves to change, to have new opportunities, even though the solution is way better and way easier doing something else, but learning while doing it. We're just sometimes we're so scared to open our minds for that path that we just get stuck in that stubbornness. And the only thing that we're certain of is that life is constant change. So if we resist to that change, we're going to get stuck in only using the hammer, right? In the past. And unfortunately, life can be very hard sometimes, but we need to understand that it's part of everybody's lives. Good things, bad things, everything comes and everything is dynamic. And we need to, little by little, embrace that change. That's why I always tell people with any journey, like quitting alcohol or any journey really, um, don't see it as a big thing, as a long path, because you're going to get overwhelmed and you're not going to do it because the fear is going to be massive. It's going to be so big that you're going to be like, no, 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 that's not for me. Do it day by day, little by little, break it all down and see what's achievable. Like, can I do this change today? Maybe just like, I don't know, not go into the shop and buy a bottle of wine that you normally do. Or when you get home from work and you fancy a beer, for example, after a stressful day, instead of getting a beer that's alcoholic, take a non-alcoholic one. You're still having the beer, but you don't that doesn't have the alcohol, right? So these tiny changes that you can do every day are way less scary. So I always tell people break things down because then you will realize after a while all the change that you've done without even you noticing.
Yes, and I love a couple of things that you said there. First of all, you're talking about the hammer and being really stubborn. And I love to ask people, are you using the right tool for the job? Stop and ask yourself that. And you may not even know if you have the right tool for the job yet. And so that's where, reaching out to people like yourself and being open to different forms of healing, because there's more than one way to heal. And so it's finding the right way for you and the right tool to be using. And then, yes,
Yeah.
breaking it down into baby steps. It's not 0 to 100 and expecting, society, as you mentioned earlier, the programming in society, right? We've also been programmed to believe there's a magic pill. And
Yeah.
there isn't. Sorry, folks, there isn't a magic pill.
Unfortunately.
However, when we break the goal down into the baby steps, as you said, and you look at what can I do today and take it one step at a time. And even if you fall off somewhere along the way, give yourself some grace, forgive yourself, and get up the next day and say, what can I do today? And keep putting one foot in front of the other. So that takes us into a topic that we both love to talk about, and that is exploring how the unconscious, I call it, you call it subconscious, same thing, can unlock hidden patterns for easier change.
The unconscious mind really fascinates me because there's so much that we don't know.
Yes.
And it's so powerful how our bodies just do so many things automatically. Obviously, we breathe, we walk, we do things without even realizing. We digest everything. All of our system works. Well, it's a very like beautiful machine, right? That we do all these things without even realizing. And when people think of unconscious, normally they're a bit confused with what it means because it not only means this, like the things that you don't think that your body does. It also means experiences, trauma, or it doesn't need to be negative experiences. They can also be positive experiences that just are stored in the back of your mind, and you don't realize, you don't remember, you don't have access to them because of any reason, right? So these experiences really shape us. We think that it's only the conscious part, but that unconscious part has so much power, um, that we don't even understand. And when I have a patient in not only talking about alcohol, but also talking about like general therapy related to unconscious, a lot of people struggle with, for example, attachment, the different attachment styles, right? And how they have other interactions with other people when they're adults, right? Their relationships are shaped regarding that attachment style. And when you make that attachment style conscious, it's unconscious, but when you make it conscious, then you can work on it and you can understand what you need and what type of partner would suit you, for example, or what type of friendship, or how to set boundaries, and everything is just more aligned with what you need, right? And that is only one example of plenty. There's many ways to use, like to make conscious the unconscious, right? Or, yeah, just to shape it. Sometimes you don't even have to understand what's going on, but to be open, uh, for your mind to just access that bit, right? For example, with hypnotherapy, you don't need to understand everything that's going on in your brain, but with hypnotherapy, having that relaxation, your mind works on itself, right?
I love that. And so let's dive into hypnotherapy because it is such a powerful tool and giving us
Mm-hmm.
access to the unconscious mind. And I know that you use it in your work and I use it as well. And you you've used it to help with alcohol urges. I've never done that. So let's talk about that and the power of hypnotherapy and the fact that it allows us to access the unconscious mind. And I know you mentioned a minute ago, just in regards to bringing things into the awareness, and that's bringing it up from the unconscious to the conscious so we can focus
Mm-hmm.
on it. Whereas with hypnotherapy, we can get into the unconscious to do the change work.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's these two ways of working, and I like to combine both of them because um, there's there are things that is powerful that you know to function in your life or to make changes, but there are things that you don't really need to know or you don't really need to relive, right? Um, there's negative things that people they're just very, very stored in in a very deep part of ourselves, and we don't need to relive that to work on them, right? So that's why, as you were saying, hypnotherapy is a very good tool because we don't need to make everything conscious to work with it. And sometimes, for example, regarding my work, that's to help people stop drinking alcohol or reduce their intake because, again, we don't demonize. If you want to drink, that's completely fine. We offer the path of continue dry or moderation, right? We only offer you the tools to do it consciously, to do a conscious choice, right? Not do it unconsciously and just do it as a habit automatically. So the way that we work um, is on those urges, treating those urges that people have when they stop drinking alcohol, like that, or that automatic thinking that I said before. Like, for example, you get home from work and you've had a stressful day, and your mind straight away thinks, I want a beer or I want a glass of wine, right? And that link, it's automatic, it's very strong. And because you reinforce it every day or every 2 days, that path in the brain gets very, very strong. But that doesn't mean that it's healthy. The brain doesn't really understand if it's healthy or if it's unhealthy. It's just the brain says, okay, we do this a lot. So I'm just going to reinforce that path to spend less energy, like waste less energy on that path, right? So yeah, and that doesn't mean that it's healthy for you. It just means that you repeat it a lot. So changing those bridges or those paths in the brain, to say it simply, takes time. But hypnotherapy really helps changing those patterns and changing those paths and opening new ones and reinforcing new ones, because constantly you're listening to something with that relaxation state or that trance, right? That just works on that other path, that new path. And without realizing, you've reinforced that one, right? And the other one has lost its strength.
I love it. And I explain to my clients, well, first of all, for people that don't know, the brain has or is neuroplastic, which means it can learn new things, right?
Yeah.
And for a long time, we didn't even believe that. We just thought the brain was a machine and it couldn't be trained. However, we know that it can learn new things. And as you said, it likes to conserve energy because it has a lot of jobs to do. And so it will run the patterns that work. And it doesn't go looking for new patterns unless it's asked to. And each time it runs the pattern that works, it's deepening that neurology. And I call it, we start out with a 2-lane bunny trail, and then we do that action, and it becomes a 2-lane road, and then a 4-lane road. And then as it becomes a habit, it then turns itself into an 8-lane highway in our brain. And the brain automatically goes that way without you even having to think about it, right? And with hypnotherapy, what we do is we create a new path, a new bunny trail. And we then practice that bunny trail to turn that bunny trail into a 2-lane road and a 4-lane road. And then before long, it's the 8-lane highway. And that's the way the brain now goes. And the other path has lost its power, like you said. And all change happens in the unconscious mind. And that's the 90% of our mind. The conscious mind is the 10%, and it's the home of willpower. And we know willpower doesn't work because in the beginning of January, the gyms are full. And by the end of January, they're not so full. Because a lot of people have fallen off the new habit because they've been trying to do it with willpower alone and using the 10%, their conscious mind. We need to tap into the other 90%, the unconscious mind, with powerful tools like hypnotherapy in order to be able to create lasting change. And so I love that this is a tool that you work with. However, you said that you also use it with tools of the conscious mind. So let's talk about how you do both and why that's important.
So the program has a part that's working with the unconscious mind and part that's conscious, right? Because even though, as you said, the unconscious mind is very broad, and as I explained before, there's so much that we don't know. It's very powerful as a tool. Combining it with the conscious, it can make it even more powerful because you're realizing the changes that you're making, right? So, for example, we love to the program is 30 minutes a day. It's 15 minutes of hypnotherapy that is an audio every day that you just put your headphones on and relax and dive into that hypnotherapy. And after that hypnotherapy, sorry, we suggest to do some journaling and we suggest some questions. They might be related to hypnotherapy, the hypnotherapy session that we did or not. You can really choose the questions, but they're related to mental health. And by reflecting on different things and working with that consciousness, that change, it just takes a different turn because you feel like you have less urges by day 5 or 6, you feel like the urges that you had to drink alcohol have dialed down their power. And you're also reflecting about other aspects of your mental health, of your life, of other areas, right? Because when talking about alcohol, in my case, right, in the program that I work with, um, when you drink alcohol, it not only has effects on the person that's drinking, it has effects on everyone around that person and many different aspects, right? It affects that person's relationships, it affects that person's self-esteem, it affects so many different things that we work with these two things to make conscious also the part that that person can work on that is easier, right? For example, as I said at the beginning, we like helping people embrace that happiness and understanding that difference between happiness and pleasure, right? And as I said, happiness is key to be shared. It's key to be surrounded by people that you love. So we have what we call connection days that for it's like a banner that says, for example, the first one is gratitude, right? Is saying thank you. And we say, grab your phone and send a message to someone that you appreciate or that did something that you are thankful for and let them know. And that just makes the other person's day and your day because you made the other person happy, right? Reinforcing those connections, that part is conscious, but that is working as well with all the unconscious work that we're doing because that works with the new path that we're creating with the unconscious mind through the hypnotherapy. Because in the end, as you like to work and I like to work holistically in like humans as a whole, nothing can be isolated.
Right.
Everything is interconnected, right? So that's
Absolutely.
why we interconnect different things with the hypnotherapy to make it even more powerful.
And I love that. And I also love you mentioned it again, the importance of connection to others
Mhm,
and to self. So by bringing it into the conscious and having people answering questions and reflection, that's connection to self, as well as the gratitude. And just, I mean, there's so many ways that we can show gratitude, and it's absolutely free. And when you show gratitude to others, you're bringing them happiness, as you mentioned, while bringing happiness to yourself. And it didn't cost
mhm,
you anything. And it's such a powerful form of healing in and of itself.
mhm. And it takes 2 minutes.
Exactly. Exactly. It's
Mhm,
beautiful. So let's just also talk in regards to a couple of other difficult emotions that people may go through when they're on an addiction journey, and those are guilt and shame.
mhm,
And how does your program support people in overcoming those and turning those into opportunities for growth and boosting their self-esteem?
mhm. So these two emotions are very powerful, but at the same time, they're very different. Even though we think that they're similar and they're synonyms, they are very different. I actually love listening to Brené Brown, which is an expert in this topic. She's been studying the difference between these two emotions for so long. And she basically explains that guilt is a very powerful tool to make changes because it makes you think, I don't like this, I'm going to change that. Whereas shame, it attacks your personality, it attacks your person, saying, you are not worth anything, right? So that is not a powerful tool. That will only sink you.
Right.
So with the program, we want to make people understand that those sentences or those thoughts that we have related to that shame are not helpful at all. The only thing that will do is sink you more, lower your self-esteem, make you feel like you cannot succeed in your goals because you are not worth succeeding, right? You're not worth anything. And that is so not true. Everybody can do it, but we understand people need help. Everybody needs help. And yeah, it's just understanding that difference and how you might slip up. You may slip up at, I don't know, it's a 30-day program. You may slip up on day 15, and that's completely fine. You feel guilty, but we shift those thoughts from shame to guilt because you're like, okay, I feel guilty that I drunk, but I'm going to use that guilt to not do it again because next time that I want to slip up or I have the urge to slip up, I'll remember that feeling of guilt, right? So that is a powerful tool where shame just sinks you. And yeah, if you want to look more of Brené Brown work, you'll see that she is amazing. She has so many TED Talks, and I don't know if you know her, but I
I do,
love
of course.
listening to her. Yeah, and reading her books. She has so much knowledge on this that you understand the power that each emotion has and how you can use it in your favor, really.
And that's such a great explanation of the difference between the two and how one
Mm-hmm.
will take you down and one can actually lift you up.
Mm-hmm.
And emotions aren't good or bad, they just are.
No.
And so when we understand how they affect us, it also enables us to make better choices
Mm-hmm.
and to start to also recognize the thoughts that we have running through our head. You know, the 70,000 thoughts that we have in our head every single
Mm-hmm.
day. What story are we telling ourselves? What story are we making up? What story,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I notice myself making up a story and then I'll be like, okay, that's not true. You don't need to make up a story about that. Just let it go. Just let it go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the more people can understand that and recognize that we don't need to label our emotions as good or bad, they just are. And then again,
Mm-hmm.
having the right tool for the job to keep us moving forward each and every
Mm-hmm.
day.
I always differentiate emotions not as negative or positive. I always say pleasant and unpleasant, or
Mm,
comfortable and uncomfortable,
yeah,
because you might feel uncomfortable with anger, with sadness, with shame, right? But they are telling you something. You
exactly.
need to accept them and feel them in order to heal, as you said at the beginning. Like,
Yes,
it's so necessary to feel all the emotions, pleasant or unpleasant, because if not, if you're only stuck with the pleasant ones, in the end, you're gonna be numbing all the emotions because you're numbing the ones that are not pleasant to you, but then you're also numbing the pleasant ones. So you're just having a very plain life, right? And everything just gets stuck in that part of the brain, I would say. And it's going to explode anyway because your body has its way of telling you there's something that you need to work on.
exactly. Exactly. All of our emotions are messages to us.
Exactly.
Beautiful. So I always love to ask all of my guests, what does don't wait for your wake up call mean to you, Sylvia?
For me, it means that even though, as we said before, change is very scary, and I feel it every day when I have to make decisions. Sometimes I'm terrified, but you don't have to wait until a new year, a new month, a new week. You can start changing today, little by little, as I said before, but you can start change today. You don't need to keep putting it like, I'll do it next week. I'll do it like typical sentence. On Monday, I start my diet, right? And that culture of just saying that you'll do it later doesn't help you. For me, it's like you want to do that. You want to do that. You want to create that change. Then start today, little by little, but start today.
I love that. I always say the best time to start is today.
Yeah.
And in fact, the best time to start was yesterday. And since you
Hmm.
didn't start yesterday, let's get started today. Beautiful. Now, Sylvia, if people want to get hold of you and work with you, how can they reach you?
So the program is actually an app, so they can download the app. It's called My Dry 30 app, and it's in Google Store, yeah, and Apple Store. Well, Google and Apple, like both, and they can also look on the website. Everything is explained very in detail, how the program is set, because I talked about hypnotherapy because it's the biggest part, but there's, as I said before, journaling, but there's reading, there's stretching, there's many, many different things that are all interrelated, and everything's explained thoroughly in the website. So that's a very good place to read about everything. Um, and there's a contact sheet there that you can just people can fill it in if they have any questions. Another place where we are very active is on Instagram. Again, My Dry 30 app. And they can send us a direct message and we'll be happy to respond. And if they have a specific question to anything that I said today, they can also send me an email to my email from My Dry 30. That's Silvia with an I, Silvia at mydry30.com, 30 with a number. I'll send you all this so you can attach it to the notes, and everything is explained well. And for the app, we always like to say it's 30 minutes a day for 30 days, $30, right? Because that's the cost of it all. But for your podcast listeners, we want to give a discount code, and I'm going to send you the link as well to have a 20% discount. So I would say it's very affordable because, as you said at the beginning of everything, not drinking alcohol saves you a lot of money. So a bottle of wine pretty much costs you 20 $20 more or less, maybe 15, but if you have two, then you're already past that. So instead of buying that alcohol that people normally buy, just invest on yourself and do something different, try something different.
It is very affordable. As you said, like 1 to 2 bottles of wine is more than the cost of the entire 30-day program. And with your discount, thank you very much for offering that to my listeners. It's even more affordable. So I do have all of this information in the show notes, and I'll just say the website again for listeners. It's simply mydry30.com. So very easy to find and lots of great resources on the website, and definitely take advantage of the offer for a 20% discount. So thank you again for offering that, Sylvia. And as we wrap up the show, is there any last words of wisdom that you would like to share with the audience?
For me, I always try to tell myself, take it easy. I know it's a very spread message, but as I said before, even though change is very scary, um, you just need to dial down all that stress or that anxiety that comes with it, right? And you said it, you explained it very well, how sometimes we get just stuck in those thoughts, and we even have thoughts that are not real, and we don't even think. We just have random thoughts, and the only thing that they do is build up that stress or that anxiety. So I I was very guilty in the past to just get stuck in that overthinking. And in the end, I would end up so stressed and paralyzed because that you cannot do absolutely anything with that level of stress, right? So I would need to just stop and do completely something completely different. Um, and that would get me nowhere. So I always try to remember myself, take it easy. Nothing is that serious, right? It's a small decision and things will fall into place. You just need to believe and work on yourself.
I love that. It is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. However, there is
Mm.
nothing more important in your life than you working on you.
Mm. I'm believing that that will work.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much, Sylvia, for coming onto the show, sharing your wisdom, your expertise, and the introduction to this app, which I know will help many, many people. I love how inexpensive it is, as well as how it's so accessible for people to be able to step into this journey of helping themselves. And with all of the additional tools that are included in the app, it helps deepen their belief in doing so. So thank you for being here. And to my audience, thank you for caring about your health and your life enough to be here, tuning in each and every week, learning from myself and the wonderful guests that I have on the show. And we will be back here next week with a new episode. I'm excited to share with you a new program in 2025 that my training partner, Billy Admi, and I are launching. It is taking place in Q1 2025, and it will bring you to a master practitioner level of NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and NLP results coaching. And what this means is with this level of training, you will be able to guarantee your client results to them in writing. And no one else can do that as a coach. So it's very powerful. Throughout the 90 days, we won't be working together daily. However, we have trainings every week. You will be meeting your unconscious mind, designing your destiny, learning self-hypnosis and higher self-hypnosis, getting a 3-day designation in the Krasner style of hypnotherapist and start working with clients right away. Then we go into our 8-day practitioner level training of NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and NLP results coaching. And we end with the master practitioner level of those 4 modalities as we continue to build your skills. Everything builds on itself all the way through the program. On the weeks that we don't have trainings, we have student check-ins, office hours where you can come, get your questions answered, and get the support that you need going through these programs. These designations are valid in 40 countries around the world, and all of this work is done on Zoom live with lots of experiential practice for you to be able to feel comfortable with the techniques when you complete the trainings. And lastly, because we teach it to you on Zoom, you can then go out and work with your clients on Zoom, which makes for a very low startup cost for you to literally be able to start working with clients immediately upon your successful completion of the training. For more information, check out the link in the show notes below.